This is Duke University.
Yeah. Eric, you're a real life G for this one. Yeah.
Welcome to this special summer edition of Left of Black. I'm your host, Mark Anthony Neal. We're here in the studios of Left of Black in the John Hope Franklin Center on the Duke University campus, and we're joined this afternoon by Ms. Camille A. Brown, who is the artistic director, choreographer of Camille A. Brown and Dancers. She is here with her troupe performing their new show, Mr. TOL E, RAncE, as part of the American Dance Festival. Thanks for joining us here, Camille.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I had the chance to see the show last night. It's amazing, right? It's, you know, as I mentioned to you last night, you take audiences from Burt Williams and George Walker at the end of the 19th century to Dave Chappelle in the 21st century, raising these really provocative questions about these images of black folks that we see all the time, that are hurtful, that are painful, but also give us a chance to laugh at ourselves. Talk about your inspiration, you know, for this show. Yeah,
well, I have a lot of inspirations. It first started with a personal frustration that I had as a choreographer. You know, you ask people for advice, and a lot of the advice that I got in order to climb the choreographic ladder was, oh, you know, go to this party or go to that, socialize with this person, you know, be next to this person. It was just all these things. It was just too many strategies, and I said, you know, why can't the art speak for itself? Why do I have to put on this face? You know, and I'm not really a social person, and I know part of that is part of what I do, but that just seemed like I was doing like a tap dance, and it seemed more than what I felt like I needed to do. And also as a black female choreographer, you know, the amount of exposure, you know, that was another frustration that I had. So it's that. Then also, I love Spike Lee's movie Bamboozled, and I say to everyone I watch it once a year.
Like it's your Roots.
Yeah, it's like you're right. Roots is on, usually during Christmas, we all sit and watch it. So, you know, I love watching it, and, you know, I always think to myself after I'm watching it, well, are we here? Where are we today with this? And I just love the fact of taking past minstrelsy and then bringing that actual literal minstrel show into today, and how would we as a society react to it. Also, which I didn't mention yesterday, I was heavily inspired by Mel Watkins' book On the Real Side. Yeah, right. And this whole idea of outside versus inside perception. So what I wanted to do is take it past the performance aspect of it and really bring it into the community, what we as black people naturally do, how the comedy, how we interact with each other, and the gestures that we do in order to communicate. Oh, yeah. Let
me talk about that first point you make about the glad handing aspect of it, right? Because on the one hand, and I've heard visual artists, black visual artists, particularly folks who came through in the late 80s and 90s, you know, basically talk about the same thing, that this reality of what it means to do black art within the context of white money. Yeah. Right, and having to perform a mask, like Dunbar. I mean, this is essentially what Dunbar was talking about, in order to do what you need to do to get access to that money. Right. Have you found it difficult, you know, in that regard, on the one hand, to have to do that performance, you know, for funders, but also the kind of lack of interest in supporting black art, you know, from black benefactors, right, from black audiences, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing, and I've had to muster up a lot of courage to do this work. And it's hard because I'm talking about something that's historical in what people think is a post-racial society. So a lot of times people will say to me, which I got when I was first starting the piece, why are you talking about that? Like, you know, Obama's in the White House and everything's fine
we're
now.
All post-race,
you know, we're all kumbaya, okay, why are you doing this? And so I got a lot of that. And, you know, the relevancy of the work was seriously questioned. And for me, it's like, well, this is my history. Why is that being questioned? And it's coming up for me to do, so it's necessary in my work. And I also started seeing other artists, actors, singers, doing things depicting the same thing. I remember having a performance and I did the last solo. I just did that. And a woman came up to me. She was actually a tap dancer, but she painted too. And she said, I just painted this picture, and it was of Burt Williams and the mask. But the great thing about the piece is, you know, it's the type of piece that either you're going to embrace it or you're not. And that's really scary. A scary position to be in, because I'm still climbing. You know, I'm not necessarily like an established artist that's had her company for 30 years. You know, I'm still, you know, I feel like I'm getting there, but you know, I'm still at that place where people are still getting to know who I am. And you know, a lot of people don't like politics, especially in performance. They just want to sit, have fun, enjoy themselves, and get out and go. Right. You know, but this isn't that piece, that type of piece. So it's a scary position to be in.
You're watching Left of Black. Yeah, you're watching Left of Black special summer edition. We're joined today by Miss Camille A. Brown, who's the artistic director and choreographer for Camille A. Brown dancers, who are performing this week at the American Dance Festival here in Durham, North Carolina, 80th season of the American Dance Festival. You know, tell me a little bit about the show itself. You know, what I appreciated was that the multimedia aspect. You know, one of the difficulties, I think, for lay people, you know, to go to dance performances is that, you know, folks can connect to the music on some level, but they can't necessarily read movement, in the ways. You know, I had the chance this semester to teach with Tommy DeFrance. And what was great about teaching with Tommy is like all this stuff I've been watching in dance all my life and didn't know what it was. You know, Tommy could just interject a few things. It's like, oh, so that's what that is. But what I liked about Mr. TOL E RAncE is that on the one hand, you had this musical score, which is incredible. You know, with Scott Peterson playing and, you know, some pieces from Brandon McCune and all these kind of folks. But you also had this visual aspect, right? So we're seeing these images of Burt Williams. We're seeing these images of Stephen Fetchit, Moms Mabley. We're seeing all these great pictures from shows like Good Times and The Jeffersons. How important was it to create this kind of multimedia experience, particularly to tell this story about Black stereotypes and blackface minstrelsy?
Well, at first I didn't have the black and white montage. At first I didn't have that in the work, but I just felt it was necessary for people to see visually where we had come from and then start talking about it, because I also understood that there might not be people in the audience that have an idea of what minstrelsy is.
The audience last night was really intergenerational, so you know, you could see folks there as young as 9 or 10 years old who don't know who Scatman Crothers or someone like that is. You know, whereas you had also had folks who probably grew up, you know, watching some of these images. So I think you're dead on in that regard.
Yeah, and what I didn't want to do was have it be a classroom setting where people felt like they needed to take out their pens and papers and take notes on, you know, like in 1922, such and such and such and such. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a balance between, okay, how do you make the people that know about minstrelsy, know about all these things, how do you make them feel like you're still giving it, but not spoon feeding,
not lecturing them,
and not lecturing them, and then how do you make the people who have no idea what minstrelsy is want to go after the show and just Google it, or Google Burt Williams, or Google, you know, these images. So I really tried to do that. And the animation part of it, I decided to do animation because I also wanted to celebrate the humor, and also,
I mean, the opening montage is amazing.
Thank you. That's by Isabella Dos Santos. She's actually in college. She's 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously talented. And I just wanted to set it up because I know when cartoons came out, they were also a form of social commentary. So I wanted to use that aspect as well. And I almost wanted to have this thing where the audience almost questions themselves and kind of trick them into it's kind of bad, but trick them into laughing about things, and then giving it back later on in the piece, and then making them question, okay, why did I find that funny, the image that I just saw? So it's more about just showing the images, throwing them out, not really saying this is right or this is wrong, this is how you should feel. It's just, here, I'm giving you the images. How do you feel about it?
I'm thinking about that opening montage, and there's that moment where Moms Mabley shows up on stage, and I you know, I juxtapose her to thinking about folks like Burt Williams and say Stephen Fetchit, you know, Bert Williams had been largely a forgotten figure for a long time. And when Ronald Reagan was first elected in 1980 at his inauguration, Ben Vereen did a tribute to Bert Williams, right? And black folks were all upset and all these kind of things. And 30 years later, you know, we have all these books being written about, you know, Bert Williams, right? He's been elevated now to the artistic genius that he truly was. We mentioned Mel Watkins. I mean, Mel Watkins did an incredible biography on Lincoln Perry, you know, Step and Fetch It. But so we have these male figures that we recognize, but very often we don't see women in that space, or we don't celebrate them the same way. One of the things that your show does is that as it celebrates these folks in the first part, we get to the second part, you know, which is really a kind of commentary on reality television. But reality television is dominated by these images of black women. You know, what do you think is at the root of this kind of shift? You know, where our comic traditions, you know, 50 years ago were dominated by these men, and we're recovering and talking about how great they are now. But now they're being dominated by black women, you know, in terms of reality television, and we're very dismissive and critical of these women in these spaces.
Wow, I have to, can we take a commercial break?
I mean, because we talked about this a little bit last night, you know, we're all on some level appalled by these images, but we continue to watch them. We're continually entertained, titillated by them, you know, all the time. I mean, what is that about?
I mean, that's the question that I ask, and that's why I created the piece, because I myself, and that's why I said yesterday, this isn't about creating a piece that I indict everyone, and I point to you. It's about us all looking in the mirror and looking at each other and say, okay, well, why do we do this? What are these images? Why are we still embracing these images? And before, these are the images that the actors had to step into. And now it's like, and didn't have a choice. And now we are the producers of some of these reality shows, you know, and what is that about? Why are we doing this? You know, and do those people even see that this is a perpetuation of something that started long ago? And we have to hold ourselves responsible. And I think it's hard to do that because I think we all can find some aspect of how we perpetuate the stereotype. But then, and I believe it's so complex because yes, you can say that they had a choice, and then you can say we don't have a choice today, but there are a lot of black actresses and actors that it's hard for them to get parts. There are very specific roles for them, especially in mainstream Hollywood.
This is a point to the actresses, you know, in The Helpmate. You know, they need to eat also. And if this is the opportunity, why not take it?
And you know, it's just like that one opportunity, whereas other actors, you know, white performers now, they have a list of all these shows and movies that they can do, and then you have this one movie that comes out every 5 years, and then all of these black actors and actresses have to fit through that little hole. So it's a ping pong of like, well, it's not that cut and dry of one and the other. For me, I just think it's so complex.
And we still don't really have black institutions. Say what you want about black entertainment television or TV One, we still don't have the kind of black institutions that can sustain. You know, the careers of black actresses and choreographers and comedians, you know, in that same way. You know, so that there still is a need for this white entertainment structure for us to be engaged there.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. And what do? You know, and I think it's about once, you know, pushing hard, fighting, pushing those doors, and once we get into a position, start. I mean, I know I'm the type of person that says, if I'm eating, we're all eating. You know, so I mean, I hope that my career continues to move and I continue to get exposure, but I also want my exposure to give me an opportunity to help others out. You know, people that are, you know, especially the next generation. You know, so
You're watching a special summer edition of Love to Black. I'm your host, Anthony Neal. We're joined today by Miss Camille A. Brown, who is the artistic director, choreographer, and dancer in her own troupe, Camille A. Brown and Dancers. You know, you said a couple of times about hoping to kind of let people know who Camille A. Brown is, but you're not a Johnny-come-lately. You know, you're a choreographer who's been a choreographer of a fairly well-regarded Broadway play,
Yes.
A Streetcar Named Desire. Talk about what that experience was, particularly the idea of doing this play at this point with an all-black cast. I mean, what was that experience like?
I mean, I love musicals and I love theater, and I try to inject it in my work as much as I can. Actually, all my pieces are in theater. And this type of opportunity came and I wasn't even looking for it. You know, it's the type of thing where people tell you, oh, in about 10 years, that'll happen for you. And it was one of those things. So I was in that. After you do all of this stuff, then, you know, be an associate, and then you do this, and then you do this. So I said, okay. And I received it because I understand that that's part of it. You have to work for it. And I have no problem, you know, where is it? Let's go.
Put in your dues,
so it wasn't even in my mindset for it to happen so soon. I mean, first of all, for it to happen, because the amount of black female choreographers that do have opportunities to choreograph on Broadway, you know, you can count us on your hand. So part of this is, well, is this a fantasy? You know, is this something that can really happen? And when it happened, that's one of the things that I was thinking, like, wow, this is something that I wanted and I was hoping and praying, but half of me didn't really believe that it could happen for me, because very rarely am I seeing people that look like me having these opportunities. So when that came, it was just like, all right, let's do this. And I mean, I was nervous. I was scared. I mean, I'm starting to work more now that I'm getting into theater. I'm starting to work more with actors that move. So for me, it's how do you make people feel comfortable in movement? Because when you hear dance, it's almost like everybody goes, oh, no, I can't dance. And it's like, yeah, but if you can do a two-step at a party, you can dance, you know. And then it's also about showing these images, these social dances that we all do.
Right, that were part of our communities.
Right, and making people understand that this is a part of dance too. So that's what I tried to do with the Streetcar Named Desire, try to bring those things into it. And because it's a play, you know, there were certain specific areas that the director wanted to inject dance and movement in. But it was just really wonderful to just work with the actors and work with the director, Emily Mann, and just to see how all of this comes together. And it really informed my work, especially in tolerance, just in terms of like transition, the importance of those and just characters. And, you know, it's not about looking at an image and doing it and then moving on. It's about, okay, well, what about this image? Who are you?
Right,
you know,
embodying it.
Yeah,
Part of it,
I mean, the 80s section, all of the sections, we actually sit down as a company and say, okay, what is your character? What is your name? You know, how old are you? Just dissect it. So that experience was phenomenal, and I couldn't believe that I was a part of it, really.
I think about the two solo performances at the end of Mr. Tolerance. Yourself and another male dancer.
Waldine Nelson.
Waldine, yes. And, you know, it immediately made me think of, you know, Marlon Riggs did these two great films in the late 1980s. One was called Color Adjustment, and there was a second one that was about these stereotypical images. And in one of the films, there's a scene of someone who's supposed to be Bert Williams. And it's just him sitting at a desk putting the charcoal on every night. And you mentioned this also in terms of Savion Glover's character in Bamboozled. And this kind of, the loneliness of this experience, right? You know, literally disappearing. Yeah. You know, your humanity disappearing as you're putting the charcoal in your face. And it was striking the way that both you and Waldine captured that kind of lonely despair, you know, in your solo performances in the show.
Oh, thank you.
How hard of it is, and this is a question, you know, that comes up performers all the time. How do you go back to that every night? And you know, and you get to break character, right? You're just performing a character. It makes you wonder how the Bert Williams and those generations of folks who didn't have a choice, this was their job, this is how they, every night having to sit down and put this charcoal, to disappear every night.
Well, it's hard. I mean, let me start and say that, as I'm sure you know, but what I like doing is I have this thing of finding what my bottom is. So what I'll do is I'll take a character and I'll think of Burt Williams and I'll think of all of these actors and I'll think of the struggle and the frustration and what that must feel like, and I'll build myself
and you'll
up.
Start from there.
Always, almost to the
Wow.
point of tears.
Wow.
And sometimes, you know, I do start crying and I say, okay, Camille, that's your bottom. Because you still, as a performer, still have to project and you have to be clear in your statement. So I just can't get out there and start crying and not dancing anymore. Right. So once I find that, then I can start balancing, okay, how do you work through that, but still get your point across? Yeah. And I do that, we all do that every night, just following the journey. I know that beginning montage, we all watch it backstage because we feel like it helps us enter the space. Sets it up. And we had, I think it was, the kitchen, we had about 5 performances every day. And then before that, not every day, I'm sorry, that week. Whoa.
It's like,
wait a minute.
Like circuit,
right. But another performance, we were at Whitebird, and I think we had 4 performances that week. And the last Q&A, I barely spoke. I was just so emotionally drained. Yeah. And I just said, I didn't know. First, I saw that we had so many performances, and I thought to myself, wow, it's hard. It's an emotional journey just doing one show, and then to keep doing this over and over again, it's a task. But then I think, you know what? If my ancestors did this every day for decades, I can do it 5 times a week. Yeah. You know.
You mentioned, you know, you dance in it, even though you're artistic director for the company. And this is not your first time at ADF, the American Dance Festival, right? What's the difference experiencing ADF as a dancer versus now experiencing it as the person who's in control? Yeah.
I mean, it's a moment. I actually had a moment about an hour before our show, and I was just crying. I mean, I'm sensitive, so I was crying. Right. And I just felt so blessed.
And you're also teaching while you're here.
And I'm teaching. And before, when I was here with Ronald K. Brown, I was a dancer. It was my job to interpret his movement to the best of my ability. And we went to the theater and we did what we had to do. We had the Q&As and we interacted with the community. But that was as far as my work. Yeah. But now, to be here under my own name, it's that, but it's also engaging with the community even more. And also, you're being judged. Yeah. Your voice, what you do. I mean, I know that they had a discussion, the MFA students, after each show, they go and they discuss it for a half hour, and I knew what time it was today, so here I'm like, I'm getting talked about right now. But, you know, it's all of those things of, for me, it's like building the courage and building the faith and like just standing tall, because a lot of times, so often when you put yourself out there, you feel so vulnerable. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm feeling that. But I'm also feeling goodness about this, because if you would have told me in 2006 when I was here as a dancer that I would be back here now as a choreographer, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But it's just
with a Broadway show under you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, wow, God really is good, and I'm just trying to soak this feeling up.
Yeah. You're watching Left of Black Special Summer Edition. We're joined by Miss Camille A. Brown of Camille A. Brown and Dancers, who are performing here, Mr. Tolerance, at the American Dance Festival. I first became aware of your work, music video. Imani Uzuri.
Oh, Imani Uzuri.
A fabulous vocalist, a video that was directed by Stacey Muhammad, who's one of your regular collaborators. Yes. Talk about what it's like working in that kind of framework, you know, in music video.
I mean, it's great. Imani is first, she's a wonderful person.
Incredible vocalist.
I mean, just really. And she just let me do my thing, which is always wonderful when someone just comes in and says, you know what, just do your thing. And I tried my best, and we actually were able to perform that for Summer Stage last year. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it was really nice to do it in a performance setting and then take it in a beach setting, and it was just really amazing to do. So I'm always honored when people ask more to work with me past just like a performance collaboration. That excites me, and I just feel truly honored to have those opportunities. So,
what's next for you, Camille?
Well, we're going to the Yard, and I'm also starting a new piece. It's called Black Girl, and it talks about everything that has to do with being a black girl. And I'm also, and it's at its very bare bone stages, but I also want to tie in the aspect of fantasy in Alice in Wonderland. So it's not going to be a reimagination of that, but just trying to really dissect that and how I can fit it into what it means to be a black girl.
Well, let me ask you this. I have two daughters, 14-year-old and a 10-year-old,
yeah.
and they're both heavily engaged in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found has been kind of the byproduct of that is that they have a kind of confidence in their physicality,
yeah.
right, in their ability to do things. And I'm not sure they would have if they didn't have that opportunity for movement
yeah.
in their lives. I mean, was that your experience as someone, growing up and having the opportunity to dance?
I mean, I'm not a vocal person. I'm usually the person that if there's a social gathering, I'll like find the corner and go there. So movement was a way for me to communicate.
Wow.
And when I was growing up through dance schools and stuff, especially in high school and college, this whole aspect of having the ideal body came up. And a lot of times I say I have my angels. I had the people that looked at me and taught to my body.
Wow.
And then I had the people that looked at me and saw that I wasn't the ideal dancer for them and never looked at me twice. So it's hurtful when you're in a class and you want to do something so bad and someone just ignores you. So I said to myself, okay, Camille, you can't let this stop you because, this is a desire. So I just said, well, why don't you just take the notes? Any notes that the teacher gives, just take them, and they're not to you. Yeah. So I did that, and then every chance I got for corrections for other people, I said, just give as many corrections as you can give me. And a lot of times I wasn't asked to be in pieces. It wasn't, I was always known for being able to move, but then the technical aspect of it I always had to work for and condition myself. But because I might have been a little bit behind, I wasn't asked to do a lot of the performances. Sometimes I wouldn't even get called to the audition to perform. And so it was hard, and I cried, and my mom said, well, take your time, have your moment, but you have to keep going. Right. So what I did was we have composition improv classes in college. So that's what I dedicated all my time to. And I just focused on that, and the teachers saw that I was really into choreography, and they, started encouraging me. And then junior year, my body started changing. I started getting into pieces, and I mean, I was happy about it because it's always an honor to work with our other artists and choreographers, but it wasn't as much of a need for me as it was before because I had found my own voice.
You could write for your own body.
Yeah, I could speak, I could start talking, and I don't have to wait for someone to tell me or to, and so, to answer your question, I mean, I can't see myself doing anything else, and this is the way for me to express how I'm feeling. And I think the beautiful thing about dance and having multiple performances is that you can take all of who you are, all of your things that happened that day, and you can incorporate them into the show. So the same show that you saw yesterday shouldn't be the show that you saw today because you have lived 24 hours. So
we've been joined this afternoon by Miss Camille A. Brown of Camille A. Brown and Dancers, performing this week at the American Dance Festival, ADF, their new show, Mr. Tolerance, which is choreographed by Miss Camille A. Brown. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Eric, you're a real life G for this one. Yeah. All black everything. All black, All black in the name of all my black heroes. All black everything. All black polos. All black medallions, yeah. All black, you know, say. All black everything. All black, you know. All black in the name of all my black heroes. All black.